Welcome to the second part of my masterclass, and let's talk about the goal one more time. I have several effects that I've selected to share with you. I think they're really good effects, I really do. But along the way, I'm very keen to give you tools and ideas that can apply to any other magic that you're doing. What that means is that if I show you a trick and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do that trick, I'll move on to the next one, I think there's more to learn here than just how that trick works. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think my reason for doing that is important to talk about. I have, over the years, come to the conclusion that secrecy, which is essential for the audience in terms of if they know how it's done, then maybe there's no magic, right? Between magicians, it can be necessary, but can also be quite corrosive. What I mean by that is that if we keep too many secrets and we don't pass them around and we don't share them appropriately with people who deserve and have earned the right to learn them, then what are we doing and why are we keeping those secrets? I kind of feel that in my personal journey through magic, I've been overly secretive about a lot of stuff. And occasionally I dig out things that I've put in my notebooks and I never really shared with anybody. And yeah, they're good ideas, but what's the point if they're stuck there? What's the point if I don't take them out and share? And I think I'm not the only one guilty of that. I think many of us have been guilty of that. I also think it's wrong to completely share everything, especially, just stuff that's not ours, give it away on the internet. I don't think that's right either, but I also think the world changes and we need to know how to navigate that, and it's not easy. So my goal with this masterclass is to share with you what I've learned, my insights and my ideas that I think elevate, improve, or adapt either something I've varied or something I've come up with cold, which almost never happens. I mean, I think all magic comes from somewhere else. All art comes from somewhere else. All ideas are inspired by something else. Occasionally you get a completely out of the blue idea, but it's very, very rare. But by identifying where those come from and pointing you in those directions, if you're really interested, you should go and find that. And if you're watching this rather than, and you're still listening to me yammer on here, if you're watching this, one assumes that you're the type of person who cares enough to maybe read and think and research a little deeper. And that makes you a better anything. Magician, guitarist, golfer, anything. That's where I'm coming from. And so my journey here is to try and share with you these tricks, but along the way, if I see a way of helping you with something else, I'm going to try and put it in there as well. So again, maybe you don't like the trick, there will be something in here you'll use. And this first trick is a good example of that. Bit more chat and then we'll get straight into the trick. When I was about 14 years old, possibly one of the luckiest things that could have ever happened to me as a young magician was that I went through to Glasgow and I went to a magic shop there. It was Tam Shepherd's Trick Shop, and the man behind the counter very kindly sold me a couple of tricks and a book. The book that he sold me was The Royal Road to Card Magic, and the man was Roy Walton. I was very fortunate to know Roy from that moment forward. He became a very strong influence for me, not just in magic, but in life. And I'm not the only one. There are many other very fine magicians who benefited from Roy's guidance magically and from his very influential way of being. I think he really held together a scene that produced some of the finest card magicians in the world, really. Roy has 3 major books that you can find. There are also some booklets that are worth looking for too. And there's a lot of material in print that didn't quite make it into the books, not because he held them back or he was being secretive, they're just not in the books. But for me, there's a lot of material that has become classic, and I'm going to talk about a version of one of those classics in a minute. But first I wanted to talk about a trick that I fell in love with that I think was ignored by many people. And yet, a lot of what's in that trick became used by other magicians in other effects. And I think that his version remained on the shelf for a lot of magicians for a very long time. I pulled it off, started performing it in formal shows and in private shows and socially and for other magicians. And always other magicians are like, wow, what's that? Where did that come from? Well, it came from Roy Walton. And I've made some changes to his original handling, but this is very much run around by Roy Walton. In the context of this, I'm going to share with you my approach to a classic sleight, which I think you'll get a lot of use out of. But let me just run through the effect for you, and then I'll run through the method. The effect is, I like to talk about going to an illusion show. I don't know if you've ever seen an illusion show with a big illusionist and all the big boxes and the amazing things happen. I find they're a little confusing sometimes. I saw one thing. I'm going to try and reconstruct it for you with these cards. On stage, there was a magician, and one of these cards, this one here actually, is going to be the magician. That's the magician. And we'll come to the magician in just a second. But because it was a very sort of traditional show, there was also some beautiful ladies on stage. And they were dancing and they were moving around, they were getting cut in half, they were doing, all of this sort of, cool stuff. But if I separate these out, I soon began to realize that they were more magician than the magician. And you'll see why in a second. I'm not saying that he wasn't doing anything, but we called these people the assistants. But in actual fact, they were doing a lot of the magic. Let me show you what I have here. Since it's with a deck of cards, I've removed the 4 queens of the deck. And we'll do it like this. There's a little bit of pizzazz. There's always a lot of pizzazz in those shows. So we have the 4 ladies of the deck. We take these out. I'm going to lay these out in a row just to sort of the same way that they were on stage, like this. The magician, of course, in this case is the Joker. You can take that any way that you want. The Joker is going to go right here like that. And we're also going to remove any 4 cards from the deck, any 4 at all. Doesn't matter what these are. These represent 4 members of the public who were brought from the audience. So just 4 everyday people from the audience. So it doesn't matter what they are, but you get it. Like that. So you have these 4 cards, just random cards. You have, of course, the ladies here as well. And the idea here is very simple. There's going to be a lot of dancing around. And during dancing around, these little effects happen, but it's all there to distract you. For example, the first lady goes behind the 4 people from the audience and then immediately appears in front like that. That's a pretty good effect. Then she grabs one of the other girls, they go around the back, snap their fingers, and suddenly they appear at the front again. They did it again, one more time. Very slow, very fair. Watch, we really cut like that. They really go around to the side and they really reappear back on top like that. And so it went with all 4 assistants until eventually all of them had performed the same miracle. 1, 2, 3, and 4. But that's when the real magic happened, because while we were distracted by all of this, suddenly and unexpectedly, the magician vanished from here and reappeared right here. And the 4 ladies appeared right here. And these 4 members of the public, I don't know about you, but I think they were in on it. And there was more to them than meets the eye. That's the effect. Runaround is an excellent sequence, but I think it's better if we make it shorter. So we're going to take away part of this sequence, but we'll talk about it anyway. I'm going to make it just a little bit more direct. And then we're going to take a leap to another Roy Walton trick, which we'll talk about very briefly, just to show you the type of thinking that Roy brought to magic and why you should be going out and finding his books if you don't already own them. But first of all, let's talk about how this works. we have on top of the deck 4 aces and a queen. Okay? They're on top. The joker and the other queens can be lost anywhere in the deck, like that. Okay. To begin, take out the joker, but don't show that card. This is very important. Put that down here like I said. This is a magician. And you talk about, the confusing nature of the magic show. I always begin by saying, they say confusion isn't magic, but I don't think that's always true. Let me give you an example. And during the performance of this, I talk about how I was very confused, but then suddenly everything changed and that felt like real magic. Entirely up to you. If we have a magician, we need some assistance. And in the traditional form, the ladies of the deck, which are the queens, will play the part of our assistants. And you remove, outjog the queens. As you get to the last queen, the aces are directly behind it, so just try and avoid exposing those as you outjog that card. And then square everything and fan, but don't fan the last 4 cards. So you sort of want to end here like that. If you want, you can move these so they look better and you can make a thing about it, like that. Okay. Here's the first, I think, really useful addition that you can use almost anywhere. And it's a variation of a move that you probably already do. I'm going to close these cards, take them, I'm going to extract the queens. And as I do that, I'm going to do a variation of the Vernon add-on move and bring these aces up behind the queens. Okay, so that when I strip them out, the aces remain behind the queens. In order to get to that position, remember we started like this. When I close this fan, my hand is naturally here, and my finger is naturally on top of those aces. Now remember, the card directly beneath them is a queen. So if I press down like this, I create this little step here of 4 cards. Just by pressing against that queen and down, that 4-card packet comes down like that. It doesn't have to go all the way down like this, but we'll exaggerate the move. And then as I remove these queens, I'm going to hit that with my pinky and bring these cards up, and I'm going to move that queen at the back forward as well. So that as I extract everything, I end up with these queens covering up the aces, and this queen at the front, which is stepped forward, also covering up the aces. So that when I turn everything over, believe it or not, this picture seems to be reflected on this side. Now, if you think about it, that doesn't make any sense, but in action, it makes perfect sense. So when you turn that over and onto the deck, these queens go square with the deck, like that. I press down on that queen and I pick up the 4 cards above and drop them and spread. And so you've just done a variation of the Vernon add-on move, which I think is very, very useful. I'm going to go over it one more time. So again, we have the 4 aces on top. We have this here. And these are in 4 different parts of the deck. We outjog the cards as we get to them, like that. As we talk about removing the assistants. Square, turn, square the sides, fan, show, square, push down, pull back, push forward so that card comes forward, pull everything back so that you hide those aces, pull everything out like that, turn the deck over in your hand, then you're going to turn everything end over end, like this. You can see this is exaggerated. You don't need it to be out as far as this. Turn everything end over end. Make sure these queens go square on top of the deck. Push down on that card and then pick up the cards above it, drop and spread. And it's a very natural, very simple way to do this sleight, but it's also very, very natural. You get into it really quickly. It happens almost automatically. I hope that's clear. Now that they're there, you're just going to repeat that move. Before you do that, you need to pick this card up and show it. Now you reveal it's a joker. That will get a laugh for most people, and as you take it, I'm going to do a second deal. Okay, I'm going to take the second card out. So this card comes over, grabbing it at the ends, but the thumb pulls back. So as I go to pick this card up, my hand comes down on top and I get a break underneath this card, pick up, show, turn over, aligning those cards, and then do a 2-card push-off, okay? You can do a standard second deal like this, but I think it's much nicer to do a second deal like that as you turn these cards over, like this. Now spread, this is now a queen. Now spread past the 4th card and out-jog the 5th, and then just out-jog random cards. I used to have other people select these cards, but it's not important and it doesn't matter. All that matters is that when you spread them, you don't happen to have taken out the 4 kings or something like that. That almost never happens, of course. Square these up, push down, pull back, so that you're in this position, like that. You're going to come forward, pushing that top card forward like that, okay, like this. You're going to pull back on these cards to hide the queens and the joker. Extract everything, turn that over, turn it end over end, push down on that card and pick up the 4 cards, and you're set, okay? There's a couple of ways to go here. Let's talk about the way we did it in the routine demonstration. Well, it wasn't really a performance, it was a demonstration. And then I'm going to show you another way of doing it. You can see that the joker's on top of the queens here. Okay, we're not going to change that, but we will change it in a second to give us another way of doing it. The first thing you need to do is you've got the joker here on top here. You need to reverse the order of these cards, okay? Like that. Then you pick this card up and put it on top. So the joker is now on the bottom with the queens here. You put this on top. This is actually an ace. And all you're going to do is cut that single card to the bottom, turn over and show one of those queens. Slide this underneath this card. Again, this is something I learned from doing this trick a million times. Go on top. This sequence by Roy is really a lovely sequence. Each time you do it, you turn over 2 cards this time. Next time you're going to turn over 3. But what we're really doing is just moving those aces one at a time to the bottom. So now we do 3. And now we're going to do a bluff. I'm going to get a break underneath this top card here, okay, which is the joker. As I scoop under here, go on top, and then square everything up and cut at the break this time. And so now we have, apparently all 4 queens are going to come to the top, but they know that, so we're going to take advantage of that. 1, 2, 3, and on 4 I'm going to squeeze off all the cards above the bottom card. So basically all 4 cards here come off. Come over like that, turn everything over, square, and then show 1, 2, and then this one's a bluff. You don't take anything at all, and then you take everything. In other words, everything above the bottom card is then taken. That's because you only have 3 queens here. It doesn't matter about the colors. You just go, look, 1, 2, 3, and that's all 4 queens, and you turn them over. But you only really show and take 3, and then you turn everything over. So one more time, 1, 2, 3, and there's 4. That's the entire block goes over. That leaves us with the queens like this. And apparently you take 4, but you don't count them. And then you turn everything back over, and then you deal these cards out like that. And these are the aces, all 4 aces, okay? You're now in this position, right? You've got the joker on the bottom. So what I like to do is spread these very briefly. As I close them up, I get a little break under that bottom card, and I do a little show of this, show the hand empty. As I come back, I'm going to palm all these cards and show the joker, and then immediately come down, spread these, adding the queens to the queen that was already on the table. So one more time. This is here. This is on the bottom, like that. I'm going to come over like this. I'm going to do this, show this hand empty, do this, and then immediately take away the joker, palming the top 3 cards, and then turn that card over, and then come down, pick up, and add those cards in the process. And that addition is very, very simple. You just bring your hand on top and bring everything back and spread. Okay. There are other ways of doing it. You could, of course, if you wanted to, come down. So when you get to this position, you palm off this card, turn that over like that, show it as this hand comes down and spreads. You could do this. You could try and get the cards underneath, which I guess other guys have tried. But I think just go directly to it. Get and reveal those cards right away. So right away, you have that beautiful quantity transposition effect. And it really comes out of nowhere. And then you turn over everything here. But if we take away that queen sequence of the queens going onto the packet and coming to the top, we can get right to the conclusion a lot quicker. And for me, it's kind of how I prefer to do the trick. So what you've seen is my version of runaround. My next version is just take away a whole sequence, all right? But the additional moves and the ways of getting into position, I think, are important when it comes to actually performing this trick. And we'll also add another little thing here too. So one more time, let's go back into position. We have 4 aces, we have a queen, and these cards are all lost in the deck. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're on top. We start by taking out a card to represent the magician. That goes right here like this. Also needs some lovely assistance, as they used to say, and we'll take out the 4 queens because they do as much magic as a magician does. It's a shame that they get called assistants, and then we end up here. Exactly the same as before. We fan these, close the fan, we push down on that packet, we pick up, pull forward, let that card go forward a little bit here, turn everything over, pick up and drop, and these are the 4 aces on the table. Pick this card up, getting the break, show it, turn it over, second deal onto the table, remove 4 odd cards, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can repeat that move again. There you go. Push down like this, pick up, pull forward, turn over, pick up that packet as you set the deck aside. This time you are not going to reverse these cards. You're going to leave them exactly like this. And you say, so we're going to take 4 ordinary members of the public. And at this point, as I do this and show 2 and 2, this upper packet where the joker is, I'm going to move the joker forward. So that as I come together like that, I can press down and get a break underneath the joker and above the 3 cards underneath. So that as I move this packet into this hand, I'm going to palm these 3 cards on the bottom into the right hand, which is above. Okay? So I show like that, close, get a break. My pinky is on the back here of this packet. So that as I move everything over like that, I've just palmed off those cards. I can flip that over and then spread these cards. And that all happens instantly. And then I immediately show that these are the aces. And I say, I don't know if confusion is magic or not, but I was blown away. And we've removed that sequence. And while it's a beautifully constructed sequence and very typical of Roy Walton, he's so far ahead of the audience, by taking that away and jumping directly into that, I think that everything flows a little bit better. And I don't know, maybe it's just better for today's audience with a shorter attention span. I'm not entirely sure that's true, but let's say it is. There's a lot there to use. I hope you get something out of that. But Roy Walton's Runaround is the very last trick in Volume 2 of the Complete Walton. And I highly recommend getting that book and learning his method as well. So next we're going to talk about another Roy Walton trick, and again, an adapted version of what Roy published. I think this is probably his most well-known trick in the magic community. And I have a few ways of doing this that are based on the original approach that Roy had to the trick. We'll get into what the other versions are. But this method and this approach will, I think, take care of a lot of the what I felt were not unnecessary sleights, but were sleights that could be improved. And I think this is, even though I hate to think about improving a Roy trick genuinely, I think these definitely make it a lot more practical for me. And it's one of the tricks I perform an awful lot. Let's begin with a shuffled deck, a genuinely shuffled deck. And I'm going to show you the greatest card trick you've ever seen. The thing is that you have to agree that it's the greatest card trick you've ever seen before you actually see it. Okay, I know that's a big ask, but let me tell you exactly what's going to happen, and then I'm going to make it happen. So we will agree that it's the greatest card trick you've ever seen before I actually do it, but I will tell you what's going to happen first. Pretty fair. I'm going to take out the 2 red queens, this one and this one here. These queens will go back into the deck. They will go into the deck right about the middle, right about here. And you can see that the queens are in the middle and that there is nothing in between them. So you can see that. And if I were to ask somebody over here to name any card, I'm going to make that card appear in between those two queens. That would be the greatest card trick we've ever seen, right? Any card you like appears in between the queens. I'm not even going to touch the deck again. Wouldn't that be the greatest card trick you've ever seen? Of course it would. Name any card.
10 of diamonds.
The 10 of diamonds is now in between the two red queens. Now I know that because when I snapped my fingers, two things happened. First of all, this queen came to the top. Secondly, this queen came to the bottom. And what that means is that your card, and pretty much every other card in the deck, is therefore between the... but we agreed it was the greatest card trick you've ever seen, right? Now you know why we had to agree that beforehand. Look, your card and all the other cards of the deck is between the queens, but would you like to see the second part? Because this is pretty good, especially for you. The second part's pretty cool, right? Look, I'll put the deck down here like that. I want to make the card that you thought of leap out of the deck, but it's going to leap out invisibly. It's going to spin around the room, going all the way around the room, invisibly. And Mark is going to land in your right front trouser pocket. Now, it doesn't stop there, it keeps going. Comes all the way around, past my ear, and shoots back into the deck. But before it does that, this queen on top vanishes and goes down into the deck. The queen on the bottom goes up into the deck. And just as your invisible card goes in, it does a backflip and is trapped between the two queens. You don't believe a word of what I just said, of course. But if that had really happened, this queen would be gone. This queen would be gone. And in the middle of the deck would be one card, and one card only, which just did a somersault, trapped between the two queens. And that card, of course, is your 10 of diamonds. You've probably seen a version of this trick. And for me, I think it's one of the best plots that Roy ever came up with. I think it's a phenomenal structure for any trick. You have this kind of high expectation. You drop it and then you bring it all right back up again. To do this, I think a stacked deck is kind of pointless. I know that there's a couple of great versions with stacked decks, but the opportunity to cull the card and put it between the queens, Roy's structure is perfect. What I've done here is I've changed the way that I move the queens around, and I've changed the way that the card is reversed between the queens, and just made it, I think, a little bit simpler. So a few little adjustments. But these adjustments have resulted in what I think is a very well-honed version of the original trick, with a lot of experience behind it. To begin, I tell them that this is going to be the greatest card trick they've ever seen. I get them to agree to that, but before we agree to that, I'll tell you what's going to happen, and then I'll make it happen. And I make a big deal about how those other magicians, they won't tell you what they're going to do. Everything has to be a surprise, otherwise you'll be on to them. I tell you what's going to happen. So we're going to agree that if I can do this, it's the greatest card trick you've ever seen. Remember what I said in the last masterclass about us playing with the audience. Play is incredibly important, and the opportunity for us to sort of engage in the game that we're proposing, for them to kind of play back at you, to have fun with each other, not in the biblical sense, but to have fun with each other as grown-up children, toying with each other, playing around, enjoying the concept of the games that we're proposing. All of that, I think, is a missed opportunity. If you just say, look, I take two cards and I do this and it appears in here. It can be wonderful, but it's not the same as people engaging more than their eyes and ears in what you're doing. If you can get them to take part in the game, it's a lot more fun. So to do this, I'm going to remove two red queens, and here they are, 1, 2. That's the first part. Now, this is a shuffled deck, and it can be shuffled again. You don't need to know the order of the deck. Take the queens and you put them into the middle. Roy's original handling is very much structured like this. The cards go in facing the same way as other cards. There are other versions where these cards go in facing the other way, and I don't want to get into those versions. For me, this is better and always has been better. I have tried it the other way. I like to do it like this because I just think the ending is stronger. As soon as that goes in here like that, I spread the cards to show these up-jogged queens, and then I bring this packet up to gather the queens, and I bring them down, and I end up in this position. And usually I turn to somebody over here, so that as I turn over to here, I'm going to turn these two packets over again. And as I've done that, I've switched everything around. I'm using a reverse spread control. I show these, bring them up, and they're spread this way. But as I show them like this, and show there's nothing in between them, as I turn them over, I square and respread these cards in this direction, and I do the same here, spread and respread this way, so that when they come together, that puts the queens on top. There are a few people that have played with this. For me, it was Lee Asher who really introduced me to this concept. He has a remarkable move called the losing control. Highly recommend you go out and find. And I think that this kind of shift is extremely deceptive under the right circumstances. But when surrounded by people, I have to move from here to here as I do the shift, just because I feel that it's more deceptive. But more importantly, I look from this person to this person as I'm doing it. So just one more time in time. Obviously we don't have those people here, but I can show you that, look, these two cards are here. You can clearly see there's nothing in between, but I'm going to have you name any card. Now I'm already in this position. You're going to name any card, and I'm going to make that card appear in between those two queens. So naturally, they're assuming they're talking about that space that's in the middle there, right? And so that pause is important. Put it here like that, and I'm not going to touch the deck again. At this point, the queens are already set, so this is a wonderful place to be. And I didn't have to do a move here because I'm going to do a move in a minute, and I don't want to have to repeat that move twice, which was a turnover pass. I don't want to have to repeat that move twice. Instead, I want to be as open as possible at this point and yet get ahead of the audience. This is set and they can name any card. Again, we'll go with the 10 of diamonds. I don't know where the 10 of diamonds is, but I need to find it, cull it, and then reverse it. Everything is covered by the natural relaxation that comes with revealing the joke. Snap my fingers, two things happen. First of all, this queen comes to the top. Secondly, this queen comes to the bottom. And what that means is, and that pause is important, because this is where they catch up and they go, everything. And now I start spreading, is your card, and in fact, every other card, and I do this kind of like, and every other card, is somewhere in the deck. And as I'm doing that, I'm spreading until I see their card. And the instant that I see it, I pull the cards over to cover it, and I'm ready to cull it. So usually there's some kind of beat pause here, then I pull that card over, spread, and that card is going to go underneath, actually above from my point of view. It's going to go above that card like that, okay? So it goes there. But notice how I leave it stepped over like this, so that when I square the deck, that card is poking out right here. My hand covers that. And what that means is that because let me call it again. So your card and every other card, cull, spread, that means is your card. Now everything turns over like this. When I square it, that sticks off the side like that, like a, very, very easy to get a break under that card and immediately pick up a double with that card underneath. And then flip the rest of the deck on top to show the deck like this. Your card is therefore trapped in the middle. In fact, all the cards are in the middle. I then pretend somebody didn't get the gag. Everybody gets the gag. I pretend someone didn't get the gag and I explain it to them. And it's just fun. And as I'm doing that, I square everything up and I get a break in the middle, anywhere. And I turn to someone over here and I say, would you like to see it again? And as I do that, I'm going to do a turnover pass here. Okay, the turnover pass, very simply, got a break. I'm going to take that whole packet on the bottom, go here, turn this over, and then turn everything over like that. Okay. It's a very standard move. It's well described in lots of places, but We'll talk about it more in just a second. So what that does is it puts a queen and that card in the middle of the pack. So remember, the card is reversed on the bottom here. Get a break, turn, hands go here, this comes down like that, ready for the shift, which is over here, and then that is turned over, completing the shift, and then put down. I have to talk to someone over here to make that happen. And I use the old street gag of, it's going to appear in your pocket, but it doesn't stop there. And then it spins into the deck. And then I'm very clear about what's happening. It goes into the deck, it does a backflip. That card on top vanishes and goes down. That card on the bottom vanishes and goes up. And it traps your card. You don't believe a word of this. But if it had really happened, and now you just show the top, put it back, show the bottom, and then spread these over. So one more time, going through this as quickly as I can. We take out the two queens from the spread. We gather the spread up. We put those in the middle, leave them out jogged, spread these out, show them, bring them down into the deck, keeping them spread like this. We turn to show there's nothing in between like that as a gesture. As we turn over to this person here, we turn over and then reverse the spreads, bring them together. So now we have a queen on top and a queen on the bottom. We put that down, we have them name a card, we snap our fingers, we turn over this top card and leave it face up, very important. Turn this over, show that, and then spread, find the card that they've named. As we find the card that they've named, at that moment, let's say it's 3 of diamonds, I'm going to stop and cull, and then continue spreading. Leave that card directly above the bottom card here, which is the queen, which is reversed. Turn everything end over end, and as you square that card, which didn't get pushed all the way over, it remains so you can get a break underneath. You then pick up that double as you turn over the deck onto the double, to show this position. You then square everything up and you turn to the person on this side, and as you do that, you get that break. You go here and you prepare the move, all right? So you're here and then you turn over that pack and you put it down. You've now reset everything into the middle, you turn over the deck, spread it, and as you separate, you want to leave that picture on the middle of the table. Give them a moment to understand what's happened, spread, and turn over. And all of that staging, all of these little adjustments are based on the foundations of Roy Walton's original method. But I think the experience I've had performing this and developing this method is the one that I want to do will hopefully be of value, if not for this particular routine, for maybe some other trick that you do. Right now, I'd like to give you a few tools to work with that have helped me over the years. And to begin with, a sequence that you don't ever have to perform, but I have performed this, and I like performing it. But it allows you to work on the timing and the misdirection, and by that I mean the direction, the way that you talk to the audience and the way that you direct their attention, with a couple of very classic moves. And I'm just going to walk you through what this sequence is. It's not for camera. This is never something you would do on camera, because most misdirection in magic is not designed to fool a camera where the entire frame can be within the viewer's attention. When you're watching someone live, you tend to be focused on individual aspects of what you're seeing. And so long as you believe that you're constantly following the most important thing, you never feel aware that you've been directed anywhere else. That's one of the strong aspects of it. Misdirection has always been a misnomer. It is direction. And I think that I've always felt that Richard Wiseman and Peter Lamont came up with a very good way of describing this. They said that misdirection is anything that points towards the effect and away from the method. And when you're doing moves that were designed primarily to be performed under misdirection, in a world where in the past lights were low, people moved with more sort of theatrical forms, whereas when we bring it down to close-up or to formal close-up where there's an audience very close to us, we have to consider how to make things natural. So, if I suddenly start moving my arm around like this because of the way I tend to move, that would be completely out of character. We have to figure out what works for us. And we start with what I think is a very clear and well thought out sequence. And then we start to adapt it and try to make it natural. And this all began watching, Di Vernon had this exercise for practicing the top change. I started doing it, instead of with a box of matches that he used, I started doing it with the card box. And then I started thinking, oh, there's a trick in this. And then I developed this, and then I used it as a way to practice directing attention away from each of the sequences. What happens is you take a card box, close it, and you have 2 cards selected, but you don't look at these cards yet. You put these out, and you tell someone that they can look at any card they like and then put it in the deck. They do that, and the card goes into the deck here like this, and we close the deck up, and we get a break ready to do a pass. The pass is going to happen as they look at the second card. Before they do that, you're going to pick this up and place it here like that, and say, do me a favor, look at that card. As they do that, your hand comes back, and you're now ready to do a classic pass, any classic pass at all. The goal here is not to do an invisible shift, because invisible shifts tend to trade a visible cover for an invisible switch of the packets, right? You know, one of these, or turning a packet over, or doing something else. Instead, the goal should be, at this point, to just do a soft, silent pass as they're looking at this card. I'm going to give you another trick to look up. It's called Pass It Red by Roy Walton. Roy's trick is, for me, one of the best tricks to learn the pass itself, and it was published in Magic Magazine way back. So if you can track that trick down, you will have a really beautiful trick. It's actually a very good trick in itself that will teach you the pass, okay? But at this point, we need to give them something to do. And so I've got my break over the card. I move this over here like this, and I say, look at that card, and my hands come together as they look at the card, and I make the shift as they're looking at that card, okay? Again, remember, you're looking at the entire frame here. We're using lenses that get in close. It works in the real world with real people. I hate it when magicians say that as a way of excusing what might not be the greatest method. This works. This is what classic sleight of hand was based on. The problem is, if that misdirection, if that direction is not natural, it does not make any logical sense, then people immediately suspect something. Here, we have 2 cards. You've looked at one, put it in the middle of the deck. I control that card to the top as you look at the second card, and I just have to figure out what the timing is on that. That's it. So this is a great way of practicing the classic pass. We get the card to the top as they look at this card. Now I have the first card on top, okay? I turn this box over like so. I'm going to stand it up here. Yeah, this is an old box. So there we go, do it like that. We take the card that they looked at, we turn it over and put it here like this. Putting the card face up, balanced on top. Remember that we have the other card, the jack is here. We put it here like that. And now we're going to do a variation of the Vernon exercise for practicing the top change. I'm going to come over to take that card. I'm going to take that card, turn it over and put it back on top of the box. But as I do that, I'm going to accidentally knock over the box. Look at where everything is. I turn that over like that. The box turns over like this, and then I'm going to top change on the way over as I reach over to bring that box back up and set this down, face down on top. And that's the cover for the top change. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Now, I've switched the cards around. We have the card here, the other card is on top here. So now when I riffle, I'm going to make all of this fall over. That card may fall face up, it may not, it doesn't really matter. What's important is, when that happens, I immediately palm the top card, okay? Using a variation of topping the deck. And I set the deck down. So this card is brought forward very slightly. This part of my finger right about here, which is sort of the front of the middle of the middle phalanx of my middle finger, is going to hit that so that it pops up like that. As it pops up, it's going to be palmed as I bring the deck up to fingertips, and I set the deck down like this, or over here like this. Card is here. So as the deck goes down, I like it if the card is here so I can pick that up and flip it over. That means that when I come over to the box, I'm going to add this card to the box as I turn everything over, like that. Then I open the box, reach inside, and I take the card out. So the effect is that the two cards seem to transpose, but the other card actually jumps inside the box. Now, let's go back to the beginning. We have two cards selected. The box is set aside. This one goes into the middle of the deck, like that. By whatever means, I do a pass as they look at the second card. I ask them to turn it face up. I take the box and I set it down, okay, on the table. Anyway, this is placed on top face up. I then change my mind, turn that over, let that fall over. As I come over, we're going to do a top change, push that over. This goes square with the deck as we take this. Classic top change. The hand is continuing from here to here during that shift. So as I turn this over, the top change happens as the hands pass one another, okay? So one more time. This is actually the exercise in itself. So we have that card on top, this card is here. So I pick that card up, I do the top change as I turn the box over, and I put it back on top. So if you just do that a few times, so every time that you turn the box over, you do the top change. It's a really nice way to practice the top change. But for this trick, you have this, I think, very effective misdirection of the card falling over. Let me just get that balanced. Yeah, I wish I had a better box. It's not as if there aren't a million decks of cards downstairs, but we'll use this one. Oh, you know what? This should be like that. Again, switch, bring it back around, and then we're set to go. All right, we just brought in a stunt box. Can you believe that? That other box is a mess, so we're using this one. Don't use a deck of cards you've been carrying in your pocket for the last 2 weeks. This is a nicer box. The box is set up. This goes on top, like that. You have the other card on top of the deck already. I'm going to change my mind, pick that up and kick that over, and as I do that, top change on the way past, pick that back up and set this card on top. And now we riffle. As we riffle, we want to riffle enough that it forces everything to fall over, like that. Palm this card under the misdirection of that falling over. If you can, use the box to turn that card over. And immediately when you grasp the box, you're going to add that card to the top and turn the box over. Open the box, reach inside with your thumb, your fingers go underneath, your thumb goes inside, and the illusion of it coming out is very, very good. Okay, I learned that from a Marlowe trick years ago. You can do other things with that. You can, for example, if you want, just put your finger in there and just drag it out like that. That's another way of going. So let's see if I can do it with this slightly new box. You can do that as well if you want to. I personally prefer just sticking a thumb in and pulling it out like that, and then it's all over. Each one of those sequences is designed to just give you a moment, a beat that you take advantage of, and you get the sleight into that moment so that the offbeat, the natural offbeat, is your cover. And every one of those is logically motivated. If you can do that, then I think that this is a very simple way to put 3 misdirection dependent moves into one little routine. Maybe it's not the best card trick in the world, but it's a pretty good card trick. But its purpose is more to train you to use those moves more effectively in other contexts and other circumstances. And in actual fact, as well as being a card trick, it's also really an exercise in and of itself. My advice is just to play around with this. If you like it enough to take it out and perform it as a trick, go ahead. But even performed just as a sequence for you to get the timing right within the context of a routine, I think it's hyper valuable. And it's one of the things that if I'm going to use these moves, certainly the top change especially, giving myself something to do to put that top change into something that naturally flows rather than just having to do that. For me, it's much more important. So good luck with that. Right now, I'd like to talk about a couple of tools that you can use that I think, they've been useful for me, and this is just a good opportunity to share them with you. And there are many resources out there for other versions of this kind of sleight. All I'm going to do is talk about the thinking behind some false shuffles that I use regularly, that I think are accessible to pretty much anybody, but this isn't a beginner's workshop. This is the idea is to share ideas. But I think the simplicity of these is maybe why some people have dismissed some of them in the past. But let's start with a very simple, very standard overhand shuffle control, which is, let's see if I can do this in time. It's always hard to do it without really thinking, but if I just give this a couple of quick chops while I'm talking. And the idea is to talk at the same time so that I don't have to think about it too much. What this does is it basically just rotates the deck. Nothing's really happening here as we shuffle. Really all I'm doing is taking a packet and putting it at the back and holding a break behind it, then taking another packet, putting it at the back and holding a break behind that, and continuing to do that like this until the deck, I think this deck is in new deck order, yes it is. This shuffle was shown to me by Alex Elmsley, and I think that it's not his shuffle, but it's a very simple, very direct way of doing an overhand false shuffle that's a full deck. Because I'm really just cycling these packets around. The goal here is, as I take that first packet and I bring these down, this finger, this middle finger of this hand is going to end up between the two packets there like that. And we pick that packet up at the back and we continue shuffling. And then this packet goes behind, underneath that first packet. And it continues happening like that, meaning that the cards never actually mix. They simply rotate from top to bottom and back up to the top again. Okay? And if you do it, if you've done it a lot, you give it this kind of chopping action, then it feels like a shuffle, even though you're just essentially chopping the cards back and forward. Very useful shuffle. And here's another, which is based on lots of false shuffle, the Ireland false shuffle, the Hunter false shuffle, and Gordon Bruce has a false shuffle that's based on a Vernon false shuffle. This is a simple way of doing an overhand false shuffle that feels quite random. But as we mix the cards like this, and then we give this a real mix like that, really mix them up. So we end up here. We manage to keep the entire deck back in order. And that sequence can actually be, the idea is to emulate a real shuffle, of course, but a real shuffle tends to be a little bit more chaotic. The only way I would do this is if I can learn to do the shuffle while I'm speaking and therefore memorize the sequence in a way that doesn't require me to think about it. So while I'm talking, I know when I've taken 5 cards, I know when I've taken 6 cards, I know exactly what the sequence is. And I did that by making the sequence relatively simple, but it feels more chaotic than it actually is. So I take a card and I'm shuffling like this. That's 5 cards, and then I make it look like I'm putting the cards together. Again, shuffle back and forward, and end like this. What's actually happening is we take one card, single card. That's the Jack of Spades in this case. Take a slug, it's about a third of the deck. Run 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These cards can actually be butted against and pushed together, but what's really happening is that they're just going to the front, okay? So this is an Erdnase, and it's one of, I think, Leonard Green's best false shuffles is his variation on this. But you pretend to push it in, but what really happens is you tap these together and you let these fall in front. Okay, so you can do that. We'll start again. 1 shuffle, block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But push together. You now have this big step out the back, because as I push these together, when I get to this point, I let them fall, but that last packet I bring back to create this enormous step that my thumb can hit. It hits that enormous step like that, and then takes that packet. But you get a break first, and so now you have this break. This packet on top has not been shuffled at all. This packet on the bottom is very easy to reset. So begin with the top packet, take off half of it, go to the front with everything, including your break, and pretend to drop, but don't drop anything. Take it all back off again, and then throw the remaining packet above that break, right there like that. And that's all you've done there is you've taken the bottom half, move it to the front, didn't do anything, and then dropped it back here. Now this packet is going to go back on the bottom where it belongs, but remember there are 5 cards here that were reversed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? All that we have to do here is to drop everything onto here, but there's still that very first card that we shuffled, and all we do is release everything except for 1 card. This is going to take a little bit of practice. Okay? You're holding that packet like this, and you're going to release everything except 1 card, which you bring to the front like that. So, single card is the Queen of Clubs. 1 card, block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pat these together, and then just let all of these fall in front as you bring everything back to create this enormous step. Get a break under the step, okay, like that. Take half of these cards, put the whole deck in front and don't do anything, then come to the back and drop the remaining cards above the step. Run 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Release everything except for a single card and move that card to the front. And that's it. You are now back to order. It's a very useful overhand shuffle, but really only if you can do it while you're talking about anything else, right? So while I'm talking to you right now, I'm doing that shuffle, but I know that when I run 4, 5 cards and then drop everything but 1, I'm back to the order that I started with. For me, that's the best place for this. The more complicated versions, I think, the Gordon Bruce version is a doubly complicated version of this Hunter variant. But it looks amazing. It is amazing. It's a very good shuffle. I find this is easier for me to do automatically while I'm talking. So if you want to overhand shuffle that really works, play with that. Now let's talk about a quick riffle shuffle that you can do. Now there's a lot of really good riffle shuffles out there. We really could do an entire masterclass on this kind of stuff, where you're doing all of these types of things. I think that whether you're into push-outs or push-throughs, or whether you want to do in the hands or not in the hands, there's lots of great false shuffles. I want to share with you a false shuffle that is used by cheaters to protect a full deck cooler. Is very unusual unless you're going to play a couple of hands or a couple of rounds with it. But to protect a slug, you want to be very careful. If you have, for example, a slug of cards ready to take all the money in a game, if you were to do a shuffle like this, where you go in and you get a very, very neat, very, very slight, and then you bring it all back out again. I mean, I can do that. Do I want to do that when the penalty for missing is going to be that we all lose? No, we took the time to switch the deck into the game. We want to protect it. In Magic, we do have full deck stacks all the time. So here's a very simple shuffle used with coolers, which I think you can use here too. And again, it's done as you're talking. So as I'm talking, I'm just going to shuffle and cut the deck. Done slowly, you get to see exactly what's going on. But what makes it work is the timing. You cut the top half over, you shuffle into here, and then you push everything square. And then as you come around, you cut the deck like that. One more time. Shuffle in, stop here, and then everything after that is just mime. I'm not doing anything. I'm just pretending to push these packets together. So that when I bring everything around like this, cutting these apart is incredibly easy to do. It's not like when you have this incredibly fine brief and everything is just, a millimeter away from one another. It works and it can be done. I mean, people do it. But there's a reason why professional performers, when they have an audience who've paid, a lot of money, rely on more secure methods of false shuffling to protect the stack, and they don't take risks either. Naturally, if you're cheating at cards, it's the same thing, except with, danger on the line. For most of us, doing this just once will be enough to convince people that the deck is shuffled. So if you were to take it out and give it just one of these shuffles like this, while you're talking, put the deck down on the table, cut, do the shuffle, and then as you're talking to people, turn around and do a cut, as you're talking to someone else, that sequence flies really well and really easily. One more time, split, shuffle, keep the shuffle nice and loose, not too tight. When you get to about the halfway point, your hands stop pushing the packet together and bring themselves together and mime, and then you split everything as you turn, like that. And you'll notice in a lot of traditional strip outs, because the strip out sort of happens at the front there's a whole point where you see this unless it's been constructed differently. I constructed my strip out so that you create the illusion of a straight cut, right? That kind of finesse and this sort of, the methods behind that, they're very good, and I do use them. But the one I just taught, the cooler shuffle, that's the one I use the most in most shows, because there's so much cover and it feels so free and easy that nobody suspects a thing. And that's the secret to a really good false shuffle. I thought that it would be really interesting to go through some ideas with coins that I've brought out over the years, a lot of which seems to have been forgotten. A couple of things have been reinvented, but are useful in many ways. And one of the first things to talk about would be the coins across. I played with coins across for years. We all have. I've done it with shells, with extra coins, with all sorts of things. And what I like is something that's really simple and direct and allows me to really concentrate on the effect. And I'm going to talk about two ways of doing a coins across, and parts of this will apply to any coins across that you do. You can obviously learn one of these routines if you want to. But before we get into it, let's just point out that the coins across is a trick that is often done very poorly. It's done as if the coins are supposed to somehow travel from one place to another. We never take the time to really let people absorb what just happened and slow the thing down a little bit. And to, in a lot of cases, to use the moments that effect actually creates to help make things more deceptive. And some of the old methods are forgotten. Some of the old methods are no longer in fashion anymore. And as soon as somebody goes back and starts doing those, then everybody starts doing that as well. And we're seeing that with certain performers who are smart enough to read backwards in time rather than what's coming out currently. That's not a criticism of anything, my stuff or anybody else's. It's just a lot of the really good material is back there. And sometimes we have to think, what would be a good use for that move? And sometimes we find it in what's a relatively new idea. I'm going to do a very simple trick with three coins like that. I'm going to try and make one of those coins vanish and appear over here. That's the first coin, traveling across from one hand to the next like that. We do it again, and we pick up this coin. We get two coins over here like this. And that, of course, leaves just one coin. That coin goes here like that. Pick these up. And then something's not quite right. Oh, you know what it is? The ring came over. Tell you what, let's go again. If we were to put these down here like that, watch this coin. It's going to vanish from here. In fact, if we take the ring, it comes all the way through the ring like that. So odd doing this without any people. This is a variation in coins across, and this ending is something I've used in various handlings But this is a very, very simple sequence that's really based on stuff from Bobo and a couple of new ideas that we can inject into it, which I'll share with you as well. But the beginning, when you show the coins, you pick these up, tap, and then toss them over into here. I'm simply retaining one of the coins, like this. And so I only throw two. One of them literally just adheres to the fingers, like that, okay? Like that. You don't have to do anything, it's just friction, okay? Like this. A little tap here, and then toss those into there like that. Notice that I'm wearing this ring. I tend not to wear my wedding ring, simply because I have to keep taking it off for... A lot of my coin magic happens at the fingertips. And when I drop coins down into fingertips, it will sometimes hit that coin, and that's not particularly good. So rather than keep taking it off and potentially losing it, I ended up just never wearing it and carrying an alternate ring, which I then discovered had a purpose for this coin routine. Pick these up, toss them over to here. Classic palm, go over and drop that coin like that, okay? So I like to twink, make it drop like that, okay? Like this, see it? Just drop. If you've got a purse, you can always load it under the purse if you want, or even produce it from under the purse. So if you set the purse right here, you can produce it like that. Anything you want to do, but I just make it fall, boink, and it falls over there like that, and we have two coins here. Take these two coins and show them, and then put them back in like that. There are so many ways of doing this. I can do 1, 2, and keep them both. I can do 1, 2, and hold one back like this. 1, 2, like this, and hold one back. And this is simply a matter of the first coin dropping not into this hand, but into these fingertips. So that when I do it, it falls here. And then when I do the second one, it hits that on the way past, like that. Okay? It's pretty simple. 1, 2. Just hits it on the way past. Or, if surrounded by people in a bar or something, you can be, the sound is so important that I want the sound to be strong. What I might do is I might just throw one over here like that, and then take that and then slap it like that, and then take it away. So literally just move that hand away and palm the coin, never letting go, like that. Another way of putting it over. Pick this coin up, show it, keep it there, and then let it fall in beside the other coin. That's the second coin, okay? Put these coins down like that. Take this and show it. As you put it into this hand, you're going to put it slightly past that ring so that my thumb is on the ring on top. Fingers easily pull that ring off as I reach for these coins. Remember, this ring is not very tight, deliberately. Goes here. We steal the ring on the way past, okay? So you can use the thumb and the fingers underneath, or as you put it down, you can use the third and the first finger to sort of pinch it and pull it off as well as you reach for these coins. Can't get the coin to go over, something's gone wrong, show that coin. They will not notice the ring is gone. Then open your hand and show the ring like that. Put that down here like this. Show that position. Close your hands and thumb palm one of the coins. As you pick this up, you're going to drop it right back out again. So for a hand pin chin, like this. Okay? So pick it up and then slap these down. I've still got that coin in palm here. I only slap down one coin in the ring. So one more time. I show these coins like that. Slap that down. Close these into a fist and thumb palm that coin. Pick this up, and as I move this hand away, it's going to fall right back out again as I slap down one coin in one ring, and you get the perfect illusion. All right, hand pin chin. People stopped doing it. Why? I don't know. It's still a great routine. I actually work on Slidini's routine a lot of the coins through the table, and it's incredibly effective. Magicians, sometimes we get familiar with common moves in the art, and then we become dismissive of them because we recognize them. And I think that happened with hand pin chin to degree. Now we have a generation of magicians who maybe haven't actually seen Slidini or others do the move, and will probably start doing the move and fooling the next generation. It's a cycle. But in this particular trick, it's really, because of that ring, it was basically playing the part of the coin in the Slidini routine. Once you get here, when you pick that up and you slap these down, it's such a perfect illusion. And I'm so far ahead now, all I got to do is palm this, pick up this ring, and then open and drop, like that. And I immediately put that onto my hand, and the trick is over. Just a few touches on coins across. By adding the ring ending, it's an offbeat, I think, very commercial way to end any one of these routines. And hopefully, you'll find something of use in that. At the very least, just as a beginning, just tossing the coins over like that is, it almost feels like cheating, because it's cheating. So let's take this to the next level, and I'm going to share with you, I think, a really brilliant structure for the coins across. That's from my friend Akira Fuji. And I wanted to come up with a really simplified version of one of his routines called jet coins. And I asked Akira before filming this, and he gave me permission to talk about his method. I'm not going to teach his method, but talk about his method so I can show you what the difference is. I'm going to take off this ring. I don't need it anymore. And basically, the idea of what he did as jet coins is this will confuse me a little bit because he would go into the other hand, but he would put a coin in this hand, he would put another coin in this hand, another coin in this hand. So he would end up with 3 coins in this hand, absolutely nothing in this hand, and then he would shoot the first coin over with a muscle pass. It's very hard to do because I just don't do it anymore. But the first coin goes in like this, the second coin like that, and then you end up in this position, show this hand empty, and shoot that first coin over using a muscle pass. All right. If you've ever done this, you know that sometimes it looks great and sometimes it just feels and looks weird. He would then take that coin, put it down here like that, and then he would have these 2 coins, and he would put one over here, and then the other one would go over here as well, and pick this up, and then 2 coins would come over. The last coin would appear like that. Okay. So let's talk about a very simplified way of doing this particular routine. Exactly like before, I'm going to make a coin appear over here on somebody's hand. So somebody would bring their hand out and I would let that coin fall, leaving just 2 coins over here in this hand. And then this one would give it a little squeeze like that, would turn into 2 coins like this. That leaves 1 coin here and 2 coins here. And then if you squeeze these, this coin vanishes from here and appears over there. Okay? By borrowing the structure from Akira, you get a much simplified version of the trick. And I'll run through it very quickly. It's called Cool Your Jets. Jet coins, Cool Your Jets. Get it? Okay. Pick these up. I'm going to show you another alternative for this too, because I used to be very big on the muscle pass, and I used to be very big on timing vanishes like the Goshman vanish. And I'll show you a variation of that you might get a kick out of. But for now, pick up, toss and retain a coin, have somebody bring their hand out, and you drop that coin onto their hand like that. Open up these to show, just like this. Take them, and then they go into the hand like that, but you retain both of them in this hand. And what's happening here is I'm going to release that coin, but it's going to fall into the fingers of my left hand, okay, like this, and then this one's just going to fall on top. When you do it at the front, you end up with this feeling of 2 coins getting dropped into that hand. All right? Hold it like that. Notice how the fingers are supporting it, so if I release with this middle finger, it falls, and then that one falls. Like this. Okay. 1, 2. Pick this up, thumb palm it, and then release those 2 coins into their hand. Okay? Retaining that coin. Finger palm that coin as you apparently hold the last coin in this hand as you talk about 1 more coin to go. Pick these up, put everything in the hand like that, show it's vanished, and drop all 3 coins into their hand. That's it. Very simple, very direct coins across. It can be done with quarters, it can be done with absolutely anything. Retain 1, drop 1. Show 2, retain 2, come over here, you've got 2 coins in this hand. Pick this up, switch this for the 2 coins, like that. Palm that, pick these 2 up, show the coin that isn't really here, pretend it's there, and then all 3 coins appear over there, like that. Okay. Another ending, if you're not using somebody's hand, is to pass the coins over here, like that. You've got this coin here. The first one drops like this, like that. Show these. There's 1, there's 2. Pick this up and drop them both into the hand like that. Now pick these up and hold them at fingertips like that. And go, look, watch carefully. That's 1. Open this hand, 2, and when they look back, they see a coin at the fingertips. And the way we do that is this coin is palmed here. I drop this one, open this hand. As they look to that hand, I drop the one out of here. So when they look back, there's a coin over here. It's a very hard illusion to describe on camera. But you're seeing 2 coins and then 3 drop out of the hand. You don't see the one drop from the palm, therefore it just seems to appear at the fingertips. Hard to describe, but if you try it with people, you'll realize it really does work. Very simple. And then lastly, I used to play around with this idea for the vanish, where I would throw a coin over like that. And it's sort of supposed to be a version of the Gossamer vanish, which is held at the fingertips. And what I'm really doing is throwing it into my own fingers of this hand like that. But if you do it with that look, it feels really good. If you do it this way, 1, 2, and that's one makes, you get that lovely illusion. The problem is that you don't always get the sound that you want. So one more time, from here, there's 1, there's 2, separate those, and there's another one. And you get that sort of feeling. And you can either do it like this, or you can do it like that. Okay, so if you want to play with that, it's a nice illusion. And finally, 2 more things. After you've passed over and you've got the first coin to go, and you show these, you can do this drop sequence that I do. I've done that for many years, certainly since the mid-90s. I called it the Sunday morning transfer, but then I started rereading my Roth, and he has similar things, of course. But it's such a useful way to handle coins, right, that I really like doing it. You can do 2 as well. So if you hold 2, you can take 2 and pass them into the hand too, right? Just like that, like this. And if you have a little turn, so if you start like this and you turn like this as you do the vanish, it really feels good, okay? Finally, our friend Rune Klan, I think, has one of the greatest coin transfers, which you'll need to learn from him. But essentially, he shows these coins and puts them into that hand like that, and they vanish. If you learn his transfer, it fits in perfectly into this routine as well. So you just drop those over like that. That's it. Cool your jets. So my goal in this masterclass was to teach you the routines, but along the way try and give you things from the routines that can be adapted to other places. Hopefully we've succeeded in doing that. And lastly, I want to go back to an old routine of mine and just walk you through the handling, and along the way teach you, I think, a nice little vanish sequence that I now use in another routine, which I guess I'll be sharing in the next year or 2. But I think this is just one of those tricks that I've only ever seen one other person do it, so I thought it was worth teaching. And it's called silk purse, sow's ear, from the old saying about making a silk purse from a sow's ear. And it uses 3 coins, absolutely nothing else. These go down here like that. I'm going to pick these up so that we have 3 coins. If I take one of these coins and vanish it like this, it vanishes completely. That leaves 2 coins. If I take one of these, vanish that one here like that. And then this one, if I put this one here like that, in fact, no, this one goes here. There you go, right there like that. Now, if you think about it, if I were to pull up my sleeve, which is all the way back here, or even this one over here, the coins have clearly vanished. But if I were to open up, reach inside, and find all 3 coins, now we know where they belong. I'm running through this very quickly for you because I normally do it with a suit jacket. You know that. This is not the place to have a sleeve. But there's a couple of really nice moves in here that I think are worth sharing. And one of them is my Mickey Mouse coin vanish, which I published back in the mid-90s and is, inspired by lots of places, David Roth, Gary Kurtz. But the Mickey Mouse coin vanish allows me to vanish a coin and then show both sides of the remaining coins and position the coins in the perfect place to do a final vanish. And then from there, a series of transfers are motivated by pulling up the sleeves. So my sleeves are already pulled up, but we'll go through the moves anyway. Inside I have 3 soft coins. I got these via a lady called Mrs. French, who got them from a man named John Ramsey. And they were given to Tom Howie, and he shared them with me, and I've treasured them ever since. These coins are incredibly soft, and that's important. That means that they will not make any noise when rubbing over one another. Okay? Turn this around. So I've removed the coins, closed that, and I've turned it pointing towards myself. That's going to be important later. We pick up these coins, 1, 2, and 3, and we hold them in a fan like this. Notice how the first finger is controlling the middle coin. The second finger is controlling this coin here, and no fingertips are really touching this coin at the back at this moment. And what that means is that coin at the back can be slid behind the other 2 very, very easily. And this happens as I show the coins, I come over to take that coin, and as I take it away, I really just hide it behind the other 2. Okay. So I take it like that, gone. And I pretend to hang it up over here. This coin is really hiding behind the other 2, and it's also stepped over a little bit like this, so that's being hidden by my fingers. Okay. So that when I take both coins, apparently, I'm going to move that coin. You see this? I'm going to move that coin over so it remains hidden as I take it with the other hand. If I didn't do that, you'd see this, right? I'd do this and you'd see that. So by moving that coin over, it remains hidden as I transfer the coins over to here. But it also creates this image for me. Okay? So take the coin, vanish it, move it over. I'm now going to hide that coin from myself. Okay, this is what the audience sees. Okay. This is what I see. If I hide that coin from myself, this furthest forward coin, if I hide it from myself and see only 2, and then turn everything over, they see only 2, and now I see 3. So one more time from their point of view, take the coin, it vanishes, take them both over to there to show this hand empty too. I then rotate my hand, palm away from myself, back of the fingers are towards me, I turn everything around, and you see 2. So 3 become 2, remain 2, and I turn it over to show 2. That's the Mickey Mouse coin move. And what that does is it positions the coins in this way so that if I take that coin and just push it down like that, it ends up aligning with that coin perfectly, leaving just one coin sticking out like that as I take it and I hang that in the middle. Okay, so I take that coin and hang it in the middle like this. And as I come back, I'm going to take the last coin and put it up here like that. Okay, like that. Slide behind, vanish, move that coin over, show that hand empty, cover the furthest most coin from yourself, and then turn everything over to show 2. Move the middle coin down to align it with the others. As I take that coin and I hang it up here, then all these coins will be slid into Down's position, Down's palm, like that, as I come up and pretend to hang it up here. And I'm trying to get the angle right for you so you can see it. There you go. So from their point of view, they see that, right? It's classic Down's palm, like this. And then I bring everything back towards myself like this, keeping that in the plane and not turning if I can avoid it. And then this hand is shown empty as I open up like this towards myself. And then this is what happens. In between Spock, right? Let's do Mr. Spock. In between here, with the relaxed hand, I go in and I pinch those coins. As the hand passes to pull up the sleeve. So they end up here, pinched. And I pull them in like that. So that transfer, which is incredibly simple, but just takes a little bit of practice, that transfer, I'm going to try and do it so you can see. That transfer happens as I move up my sleeve, right? Goes into here. And then I pick up this purse with this hand. And I want to show you exactly what's going on here. I'm going to have to turn around a little bit differently. So there you go. I'm going to show you exactly what happens here. When I pick up that purse, like that, and open it out, I'm going to extend these fingers, which you can't quite see from here, right? Okay. So I pick up, I open up the purse nice and wide, I extend those fingers so the empty hand can go in, pick up those coins on the way down, and then slowly extract these coins as these fingers come back out of the way to show it like that. And so the sequence, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, show the coins, take one, this one vanishes here like that. That leaves just two coins, nothing else. This one vanishes here like that. This coin vanishes here like that. As I come back, people sometimes think there are coins here, so this is actually a good display. Come back over, transfer, pull up the sleeve, come down, pick this up, open, hand is empty, reach inside, take out 1, 2, 3 coins. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of little moves in there that I think are really useful. The load of the purse, the Mickey Mouse coin move, and a lot of this goes way back, and even I don't get to do this very often, but when I do, I have fun doing it. I did it, I think, about 2 years ago for a week at the Magic Castle, and had forgotten just how fooling it was for lay people and some magicians. But here it is. Silk purse, sow's ear, and 3 soft coins. There's an awful lot to digest here, and there's a lot more that we can talk about. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. I hope I've covered everything. A lot of the difficulty when we're doing these things separated by time and electronics is that the natural discourse that can happen if you're in the room is missing at this moment in time, but it's not missing as you watch this. I'm online, I'm ready to answer your questions, and any questions you have, I'll maybe learn from them. I maybe remember I should have said that at the time. There are things I may have missed out here that you're going to pick me up on. That's perfectly okay. But any thoughts that you have, any questions that you have, everything is welcome, and I look forward to talking about it in the chat.